March, Jack Ely. Don't get upset. I'm not here to hurt you.
Look away.
You know there's a mirror here, right?
What do you want?
There's a couple of people say you're a pretty good detective.
That's a lot of work.
I want you to help me with this case.
My profession's very complicated. It's very nuanced. Well, look who decided to show up for class. This is a high-profile case. Seen this girl? Name's Amelia.
What's in it for me?
We can do this the easy way.
Ow!
We're currently doing it the easy way.
Dad, there's like whores here and stuff.
Sweetheart, how many times have I told you, don't say and stuff. Just say, Dad, there are whores here. Where are you going?
I think this is gonna work better if we split up.
Wow, that's really insensitive.
Amelia, run!
You're in the pool?
Yeah.
Why?
I had to question the mermaids. What were you doing while I was working? Why do you think everyone involved in this case is dying?
The mob is trying to spread its operation to Los Angeles.
Gun! Gun! Shit!
Where is Amelia?
She's dead.
What do you think she's dead?
You don't know!
Amelia.
Promise me you'll get them.
Yeah, I promise.
Pinky promise.
March! March!
Before we go solving the crime of the century, let's deal with the rotting corpse.
Run.
Weapons on the floor.
This is not you. You're not a murderer.
She killed 3 people.
I'm saying deep down. I think I'm invincible. I don't think I can die. Let me.
It's not the smart idea.
March! March!
We're the world's worst detectives.
Got a cool head, though. I made your head small because I know you're sensitive
That's
about
terrible.
how big it is.
Yeah.
Rated R.
Howdy, how's it going? Thanks for joining me. My name's Zav, and this is my channel Bird Fari, where I like to focus on birds, but sometimes I like to talk about great movies as well. And this is one of the best comedies in the last 10 years, maybe one of the best comedies ever. So talking about The Nice Guys, 2016 movie that came out starring Ryan Gosling, Russell Crowe, directed and written by Shane Black. And the movie unfortunately didn't make money. I mean, it made 62 million, but the budget was 50 million, and you include marketing costs. So I guess it was considered a bit of a dud financially. But yeah, it came out 9 years ago, and in the time being, I hear it's become a bit of a cult classic, and it's gaining momentum. You know, I guess it depends what country you're on, where you can stream it. It was on Netflix. I'm not sure if it's on Netflix now. In Japan, you can see it on Unext, and there's various ways you can watch it in different countries. But it is a pity that the movie didn't do well when it came out. I mean, it did well with critics. It had a 92% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Movie critics loved it. Movie nerds loved it. Fans of comedy loved it. And yet somehow the movie didn't make money. So that's why we haven't had a sequel. And, you know, when the movie came out, immediately people were saying they wanted a sequel because anybody who watched the movie loved it. But the problem was not enough people watched it. The Nice Guys came out in 2016. I remember at the Cannes Movie Festival in France, they were asking Gosling and Russell Crowe and director-writer Shane Black, how about a sequel? And they were all hopeful to get a sequel. They knew they were up against a stiff competition. I think there was a movie, the Angry Birds came out. I think that was the big movie that came out the same weekend as it. But also going back 9 years ago, that was like the height of the Marvelverse. What's it called? The Avengers, all those movies. I mean, of course, the climax for those movies came in 2019. Avengers Endgame, I think it was. That movie, made $2 billion or something like that. But now we're in a very different world. So we had the pandemic 5 years ago, and that changed the way people watch movies. And 5 years on from that, but this movie, it's almost 10 years since it came out, and now that people are kind of fed up and had enough of superhero movies, and there's a lot of talk about cinema's dead because there's very few profitable, very few movies that are extremely profitable. So whether you're talking about Marvel movies or even Jurassic movies, Star Wars, they kind of killed the golden goose there with The Last Jedi was the kind of the beginning of the end, even though The Last Jedi made over $1 billion. Just the bad writing and the disappointing way they handled the legacy characters. So I guess I'm rambling now, but the talk of the town, the talk, if you look at if you listen to movie nerds and people who review movies regularly, there's a bunch of people, of course, on YouTube who have been doing this for many, many years and very good at it. The talk is that cinema's dead. But when the Nice Guys came out 9 years ago, the talk was kind of different. The talk then was, why are superhero movies dominating? And so at least Marvel movies, and to a lesser extent the DC movies, they were making crazy money then. And actually, Shane Black, he did direct one of those Marvel movies. He directed Iron Man 3, and it was the success of Iron Man 3, starring Robert Downey Jr. Seems kind of an odd choice for him to direct, since most of the movies that he's written and directed have been buddy cop kind of movies. But he became friends with Robert Downey Jr. from Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which came out 2005. And that was co-starring Val Kilmer, who's since passed away, so R.I.P. But Val Kilmer's son appears in The Nice Guys, Jack Kilmer. He's just a minor character. He plays his name is Jet, and he's the projectionist. And he has a couple of scenes early in the movie, and Gosling is kind of ragging on him, giving him a hard time. But so Shane Black, he's good friends with Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr., who's also in The Nice Guys briefly. You won't recognize him. He's full-on prosthetic makeup. He plays the dead porno director Sid Shattuck. So there's a scene where Gosling rolls down a hill after he's tried to show off to an actress, a porn star actress at this porn party. And he says, "Shoot me," and she's dressed as Pocahontas, and then it's a very amusing, ridiculous slapstick thing where he falls down the hill because he's so busy trying to show off to this girl. But then as he gets to the end of rolling down the hill, he bumps into the corpse of the director Sid Shattuck, and that happens to be Robert Downey Jr. So a fun little piece of trivia there. So I was trying to connect the fact that Shane Black, even though obviously his favorite genre is the buddy cop genre, because he started out as writing the Lethal Weapon movies, the original Lethal Weapon in 1987, and then Lethal Weapon 2, also The Last Boy Scout, Last Action Hero. These are movies that he wrote. The Long Kiss Goodnight. And Kiss Kiss Bang Bang was actually the first movie that he ever directed. So he was a writer a long time before he directed, but he finally got his beak wet as a director 20 years ago. And that's also a cult classic. So if you like The Nice Guys, definitely check out Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. So it's kind of a similar dynamic between Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer in that movie as with Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe in The Nice Guys. But I think The Nice Guys is a much better movie. I mean, I think it's basically a comedy masterpiece, And yeah, many people agree with me. If you look at recent videos on YouTube, like the last couple of years, I mentioned before that it's become a bit of a cult classic. I mean, classic, okay, it's only 9 years old, but you know, people didn't seem to watch it when it came out. I mean, only hardcore Shane Black fans, hardcore Gosling and Russell Crowe fans maybe watched it. There have been rumors that they might get around to making a sequel because the movie has actually gathered momentum in recent years. And if you look at, you know, reaction videos, there's a bunch of reaction videos. I mean, I lost count, but, you know, dozens. Shane Black did say recently that, you know, he's keen to do a sequel. He's always been keen to do a sequel. He said he would be happy to keep making movies like this for the rest of his life. Gosling has said, you know, he'd love to do a sequel. Russell Crowe is often asked about it, and he says, you know, when do we start filming? So it seems like all the main players, they really want it to happen. But Shane Black said that the problem is that to get everybody back, to get Gosling, Russell Crowe back, to get Joel Silver, he's the producer, and I'm not sure who owns the rights to the movie. There's so many people involved. Well, it was a Warner Brothers movie, so I guess they're involved as well. It would cost, you know, $100 million. That's not factoring in marketing. And, you know, it was a big action movie. I mean, it didn't have crazy stunts, but to do the movie justice, it would cost minimum $100 million, and that, yeah, not including marketing. So I kind of feel like, why doesn't Netflix just buy it, you know? Because Netflix, they've done it before. They've wasted a lot of money on terrible movies, you know, like Red Notice, that Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, not a fan of his. So some people talk about Ryan Gosling and Ryan Reynolds in the same breath because they're both Ryans and they're both from Canada. And people love the Deadpool movies. Not my taste. And of course, Ryan Reynolds' reputation has taken a bit of hit in the last year or so because he's married to Blake Lively, and he and her kind of shown through, you know, text messages or whatnot to try and destroy or bully the director of some movie she was in. I forgot. I mean, okay, getting off track with gossip here, but I do know that many people say, you know, Ryan Gosling and Ryan Reynolds, they get them confused. I get it on one level. Two Ryans, they're about the same age. They're both, you know, good-looking guys, both in a lot of hit movies. But to me, you know, Ryan Gosling is a fantastic actor. He's a fantastic dramatic actor. He's fantastic in comedies. He can do musicals. He was in La La Land. He was in the Barbie movie playing Ken, and he was the best thing in the Barbie movie. I mean, Margot Robbie, she's great too, but I think especially men, maybe the main reason a lot of men kind of enjoyed that movie if they went along with their girlfriends or their wives was thanks to Ryan Gosling's hilarious performance. But Ryan Reynolds, I never found funny. So, yeah, I don't get it. But, you know, humor's, of course, totally subjective. So some people might find Ryan Reynolds hilarious and they might not understand Ryan Gosling's humor. Chalk and cheese, I mean, yeah, no comparison. For me, Gosling, much, much better actor, much, much more humorous. And The Nice Guys is probably his funniest movie. I mean, he's been funny in other movies like Lars and the Real Girl that came out, 25 years ago or something. And, yeah, hilarious in the Barbie movie as Ken. Also Crazy Stupid Love, kind of comedy with Steve Carell and Emma Stone. And then he teamed up with Emma Stone again in La La Land. La La Land's kind of sad romantic story, musical, but there's very humorous scenes in it. Even a movie like Blade Runner 2049, very kind of dystopian, heavy, dramatic sci-fi, you know, moody sci-fi. and his character's kind of tragic in that because he's an android or a replicant, and he wants to believe that he's a real person, so he's just searching for something that's real. I guess I won't give away the ending of that movie in case someone hasn't watched it, but yeah, very sad story, and yet even the brief moments of dialogue he has in Blade Runner 2049, he's quite funny. So yeah, Gosling, very, very funny guy. And if you see him in interviews, like when they were promoting Blade Runner 2049, him and Harrison Ford, they went on the Graham Norton show. They were hilarious. Gosling, he'll do interviews that are normally boring, like he'll go on the morning TV shows like Good Morning America or the Today Show, things like that. And he's very, very funny. And usually those interviews are so bland where people are just promoting the movie. But so there are a number of videos talking about Gosling's charm. He's one of those guys that it's like they talked about Sean Connery. Women want to be with him and men want to be him. So, he's kind of a role model to many men because of his charm. Obviously, he's a good-looking guy, but he's so funny, and so men enjoy his sense of humor. And, for women, they enjoy him as eye candy, and he's, kind of a man's man, protective, but he's also kind of sensitive. And all of that is kind of at play in The Nice Guys, where he plays a single father. He's a detective who lost his sense of smell, which, at some stage in the movie, Russell Crowe's character, he mocks him for that. And of course, how can you be a detective if you can't smell? And tragically, his wife dies in a house fire. We don't see this, but this is the backstory to how he became a single father. And his daughter is played by Angourie Rice. I should say the character names, I guess. So yeah, Russell Crowe, he gets top billing. I think if the movie came out now, I think actually Gosling would probably get top billing. I mean, it's really the two of them. They're the co-leads, but just interesting that Russell Crowe got top billing 9 years ago, and he, in the last, since then, I can't think of a big movie that Russell Crowe has been well received in since this. I mean, I know he was in the Thor, the last Thor movie, Hemsworth, but that movie wasn't received well. He played he played Zeus. He was some kind of road rage movie where he loses his mind and unhinged. Yeah, I think that movie did okay. Yeah, he played Zeus in Thor: Love and Thunder, and he's in a movie coming out soon, Nuremberg. So, Craven the Hunter, that came out last year, and that was a box office bomb. He was in a movie I quite enjoyed a few years ago, The Greatest Beer Run Ever, that stars Zac Efron, and that was directed by Peter Farrelly, of course, of the Farrelly brothers fame. There's Something About Mary, one of my all-time favorite comedies. I mean, The Nice Guys, it's definitely in my top 10 favorite comedies. It might be top 5, and it's, my favorite comedy of the last 10 years. The Greatest Beer Run Ever, it's a recommendation, but it's not a high recommendation. That came out, 3 years ago, and I think that was a direct-to-streaming movie. Who was that through? Was that through Amazon? I forgot. Anyway, if you're interested, you can look it up. A true story about a guy who travels to Vietnam during the Vietnam War to get some beers to his buddy on the front line. So yeah, the stars Zac Efron, but Russell Crowe was the second lead in that movie. That was a good movie. So I guess what I'm saying is I haven't really enjoyed Russell Crowe in many movies in the last 10 years, but he's fantastic in The Nice Guys, and he's also very good in The Greatest Beer Run Ever. I think a lot of these other movies that he's been in, his acting is still good, but the movies just have been terrible. So, but I guess some people enjoyed Thor: Love and Thunder. He was he's had a lot of small roles, like he was in Zack Snyder's Justice League. Oh, because he's Jor-El, he's Superman's father. He was in a movie, The Mummy, with The Mummy remake starring Tom Cruise, and that was a box office bomb. Even though Tom Cruise has had a bit of a renaissance thanks to Top Gun Maverick, that was a fantastic movie, and people still like the Mission Impossible movies. But 8 years ago, when he remade The Mummy, that was terrible. Everyone loves the original Mummy movies. Well, actually, they're not original. I'm talking about the Mummy movies that came out 20 years ago, starring Brendan Fraser. There was a Mummy movie that came out way back in the 1950s or 1940s. So, okay, the Mummy remake that came out 25 years ago, and the sequel, The Mummy Returns, those two starring Brendan Fraser, they're still loved today. But the one that Tom Cruise made and Russell Crowe was in that movie, that was terrible. So, of course, Russell Crowe, the high point of his career came around the late 90s, early 2000s. I mean, he had probably this would be my favorite Russell Crowe movie where he's funny, and I guess that's not saying much because generally he doesn't play funny guys. A lot of people think that Ryan Gosling, not a comedian either, but if you've watched a lot of his movies, as I mentioned before, even in serious roles, there are always funny moments. So I've always considered Ryan Gosling a very funny guy. And the first Ryan Gosling movie I watched was Lars and the Real Girl, and that's a black comedy where he marries a sex doll, or he's dating a sex doll, and deadpan comedy. He's great at deadpan comedy. But yeah, Russell Crowe, he's older, so his career peak was really in the 90s. Let's see, I would say, the first movie I saw him in, he was in Australian movies. I'm from Australia, I'm from Melbourne, and his kind of breakout movie was Romper Stomper, where he played a neo-Nazi. That came out way back in 1992. But the first movie I saw him in was a movie called Proof, and that came out in 1991. That's starring Hugo Weaving. Hugo Weaving from Matrix movies, of course, Lord of the Rings. Very well-known actor now. So this, if you want to see a movie starring Russell Crowe and Hugo Weaving, a very low-budget movie, shot and filmed in Melbourne. Melbourne famous for its trams. You see some of that. Very simple movie, good movie. But that was the first movie I ever saw Russell Crowe in, 1991, Proof. And Hugo Weaving plays a blind person, and Russell Crowe's kind of his assistant or friend. And yeah, it's very simple, but it's a good story. But yeah, Romper Stomper was the one that made Russell Crowe a name. It got him attention around the world. It was a big hit in Australia. And thanks to that movie, Sharon Stone cast him in The Quick and the Dead. And that was starring Sharon Stone. She directed that movie. And she directed that movie? Or was she just a producer? Let me see. Sorry, Sam Raimi directed it. Yeah, she was the producer. And also Gene Hackman, one of the greatest actors ever. Leonardo DiCaprio, and later DiCaprio and Russell Crowe would team up again in, what was that movie? Body of Lies, Ridley Scott movie. So yeah, Russell Crowe, he's been in many, many Ridley Scott movies. Ridley Scott, fantastic director. Blade Runner, one of the best cyberpunk movies ever made. And of course, Ridley Scott, he's made so many incredible movies. And the big one with Russell Crowe, of course, was Gladiator. So Gladiator, he won the Oscar Best Actor, and the movie won Best Movie, and that Gladiator made, $400 million or something, which was, a lot of money going back to 2000, to 25 years ago, especially for like a historical epic sand and sword epic. So that really reinvigorated that genre, and there was a bunch of movies that came after that. I mean, Ridley Scott directed another one. What was that movie with Orlando Bloom? That wasn't that good. Another great one from that was Troy. Troy starring Brad Pitt and Eric Bana. Yeah, that was probably, those are the two big ones, Gladiator and Troy, the big hit ones that are still kind of loved today. But I was talking about Russell Crowe. So yeah, his kind of breakout movie in America, I think, was The Quick and the Dead, that came out in 1995. He was also in a movie, Virtuosity, co-starring Denzel Washington. He played the villain in that movie. So yeah, he kind of got a footing in America in 1995. So that's going back 30 years ago now. One of his best movies, L.A. Confidential, starring Kevin Spacey, Russell Crowe, Guy Pearce, David Stratham, Kim Basinger, Danny DeVito, directed by Curtis Hanson. That's one of the best ever neo-noir crime thriller movies. Also a buddy cop movie, so there's the 1-2 between Russell Crowe and Guy Pearce, who happen to be both Aussies. I mean, technically Russell Crowe's a New Zealander. I think he moved to Australia when he was a teenager, and he lives in Australia now. I mean, Australia and New Zealand, very similar countries anyway. I mean, yeah. So, but Guy Pearce, they were a great buddy cop. If you like The Nice Guys, if you like Russell Crowe, definitely check out LA Confidential. I mean, if you're a movie nerd, I'm sure you've seen it already. But, best Russell Crowe movies, Gladiator for sure, obviously, Maximus, LA Confidential, as I mentioned, one of the best neo-noir crime thriller buddy cop movies ever. The Nice Guys, one of the best comedies ever, definitely one of the best comedies of the last 10 years. Maybe not saying much because there haven't been many very good comedies. It's a real standout. I mean, I can definitely count on one hand the number of comedies I've enjoyed in the last 10 years. Yeah, The Nice Guys, number one for sure. Hail Caesar, that was a Coen Brothers movie that came out 1 year later, 2017. The Death of Stalin, I think that came out in 2017 too. So 2016, 2017, there were a few great comedies. 2019, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Tarantino movie. Maybe technically not a comedy, but yeah, I mean, Tarantino, he's a great writer. I count it as a comedy, and not a buddy cop movie, but there is a buddy vibe between DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. And actually, okay, the two movies that remind me most of The Nice Guys are Starsky and Hutch. Starsky and Hutch was the TV show in the 70s? I think it was 70s or early 80s. But yeah, I think it was 70s. And so Owen Wilson and Ben Stiller, they did reboot, or they did a adaptation of that 2004, I think it came out, so 21 years ago. And of course the aesthetic of The Nice Guys and the aesthetic of Starsky and Hutch, very similar. The cars, the Los Angeles, the way Los Angeles filmed, the comedic banter between the two of them, the fashion, the visuals for sure. Boogie Nights, Paul Thomas Anderson movie, starring Mark Wahlberg. I think that was his breakout movie. He was I think he was a rapper. He was also like a Calvin Klein model before that. And Mark Wahlberg is in a new Shane Black movie. So Shane Black's got a movie coming out soon called Play Dirty, starring. I'll check it out. I'm sure it won't be as good as The Nice Guys, but since I like Shane Black's writing, and yeah, so he's the writer and he's the director, Mark Wahlberg. But I was talking about movies that remind me of The Nice Guys. Boogie Nights, set around the porn industry, and Boogie Nights also a great kind of black comedy. Oh, Burt Reynolds. That was one of Burt Reynolds' last great performances. Burt Reynolds passed away a few years ago, but yeah, the Boogie Nights, which came out in 1997, the same year as LA Confidential, that really restarted, or that really reinvigorated Burt Reynolds' career. The theory, which I might be wrong, but I think that Tarantino, he was on a roll with Inglourious Bastards and Django Unchained, and I think Django Unchained was his most profitable movie when it came out in 2012. Then his next movie was Hateful Eight, and that movie was, much less successful, didn't do too well, and I think he was, a bit rocked by that because he was, everything was going great there for several years, and then Hateful Eight kind of derailed him. And of course, Tarantino hasn't made a movie for 6 years. His last movie was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But anyway, 2015, big disappointment for Tarantino, I think. I mean, he wants his movies to be, financially successful. And then The Nice Guys comes out in 2016. And of course, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out 3 years later, but they released it in 2019. Tarantino was writing it in 2017, 2018. So there's more than a year between writing the movie and producing it, directing it, filming it, and then editing it, releasing it. So basically, he wrote Once Upon a Time in Hollywood about a year after The Nice Guys. And so Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is set in 1969. The Nice Guys is set in 1977, so there's only 8 years apart there. The cars are kind of similar. Okay, the music's a little bit different. I realize, 60s, 70s, not the same thing, but it's only an 8-year gap between them there. And had Tarantino ever done a movie in that era before? I think when was Jackie Brown set? Jackie Brown came out in the mid-90s. I think it was set in the 90s. So yeah, I don't think he'd ever done a piece set in the 60s or 70s, even though everybody knows Tarantino, he loves movies of that era. Like a lot of his influences were 60s and 70s movies. So he wrote Once Upon a Time in Hollywood a year after The Nice Guys. The actress Margaret Qualley, who's now in so many movies, she's a big star. So this was like, The Nice Guys was her breakout movie. Okay, prior to The Nice Guys, she'd only been in one other movie, Palo Alto, that came out in 2013. So there was a 3-year gap. That was also Jack Kilmer, Val Kilmer's son. There's the Shane Black connection because Shane Black directed Val Kilmer, Robert Downey Jr. in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Check out Kiss Kiss Bang Bang if you like The Nice Guys. Robert Downey Jr. is in The Nice Guys. As I mentioned before, he has a small cameo, but you won't recognize him because he plays a corpse. He's got all this makeup on him. And Jack Kilmer, Val Kilmer's son, who directed and narrated a documentary about his father a couple of years ago, just before Val Kilmer passed away. What was I saying? Oh, I lost my track of thought. Oh yeah, Margaret Qualley. Margaret Qualley, she'd only been in one movie before The Nice Guys, and there was a 3-year gap there. Since The Nice Guys, 2017, she was in 3 movies. 2019, she was in 6 movies, including Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So there's some great scenes between her and Brad Pitt. He picks her up on the side of the road. She's one of the Manson girls, hippie girl, and he drives her back to the ranch where Manson has his harem of women and other creepy stuff going on there. She's been in 2024. She was in 3 movies. 2025, 3 movies. She's got another 3 movies coming out next year. So Margaret Qualley is now a big star and one of the most in-demand actresses. And of course, her parents very famous. Her mother, Andie MacDowell, fantastic actress or very attractive actress. Andie MacDowell Everyone loves Groundhog Day. Bill Murray, one of Bill Murray's greatest movies. Four Weddings and a Funeral. Hugh Grant movie. Fantastic comedy, romantic comedy. Anyway, Margaret Qualley, so she's her breakout movie, The Nice Guys. 3 years later, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Tarantino cast. So I'm absolutely positive that Tarantino saw her in The Nice Guys and wanted to cast her. Now the question is, how much of The Nice Guys inspired Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Okay, they're very different movies. One's late 60s, the other's late 70s. Okay, Nice Guys, detective movie, buddy cop movie. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, not a detective story, but there is the buddy element. You know, you've got DiCaprio's character who's a drunk. You know, he's such a drunk that he can't remember his lines, and there's a very funny scene where he's berating himself in the trailer because he keeps stuffing up, and he has a scene with a young actress. Oh, another link there. So you've got a precocious young girl actress in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood who's kind of mocking DiCaprio, and he's shown up to be unprofessional by this child girl actress. And then in The Nice Guys, you have Gosling's daughter, played by Angourie Rice, and she's kind of mocking her father because he's a kind of hopeless loser drunk and he can't get his shit together. So other connections. And also you have a lot of these Nepo babies. So, of course, Margaret Qualley's a Nepo baby. I mentioned Jack Kilmer. Jack Kilmer is not in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but you have who's Ethan Hawke, and who's Ethan Hawke's daughter? Maya Hawke, and she's the daughter of Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman. So you have the aesthetic. There's not... Okay, the 60s and 70s do look a bit different, but there's definitely a similar vibe with them. And yeah, they only came out 3 years apart, and Tarantino wrote the movie 1 year after The Nice Guys. I'm trying to think of some other coincidences. There are other coincidences that... Oh, okay. In Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, there's the Playboy Mansion party, you know, Hugh Hefner party. They have Sharon Tate there and Steve McQueen, all these famous, you know, glamorous kind of thing. And there's the porno party, you know, this glamorous hilltop mansion with the swimming pool and everything in The Nice Guys. So there's the buddy cop element in The Nice Guys. It's not a cop movie in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but there's a buddy element. And so I guess you'd say DiCaprio's character, the kind of hopeless drunk, similar to Ryan Gosling. He's the hopeless drunk detective. DiCaprio's the hopeless drunk actor. And then you have the heavy, kind of straight macho guy who kind of brutal, you know, heart of gold, but when he's kicking ass, he's complete brute, Russell Crowe. And then Brad Pitt, who's the stuntman. But okay, so I don't know if anyone will agree with me on that, but I haven't heard anyone mention it. And I just thought it's interesting because, you know, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was a big, big hit. It won Best Supporting Actor for Brad Pitt, and it made $300 million or something like that. And yet The Nice Guys only made $60 million. I love both movies, and... you know, which is the better movie? I mean, I would say The Nice Guys is a better movie. You know, if you know all the background behind the Tate murders, you know, Sharon Tate and the Manson murders, if you know the background behind that, then Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the twist is great. And it's a very clever title because it alludes to a fairy tale, and of course they rewrite history. And so in Tarantino's version, Sharon Tate survives. I kind of feel that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the story doesn't work unless you know the background. But The Nice Guys, you know, you don't need to know anything. You don't need to know 70s music. You don't need to know 70s. I mean, yeah, you can go in blind. So I would say it's a better movie. I mean, Tarantino at his best, if you're talking about the dialogue and, you know, the cinematography. I mean, there are flourishes of absolute masterpiece in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that, you know, only Tarantino could do. Maybe Shane Black can't match that. But if you're talking about consistent laughs, if you're talking about story, I mean, the detective story, like The Nice Guys works as a comedy, it's, 10 out of 10. As a detective story, it's 9 or 10 out of 10. As a friendship movie, as a buddy cop movie, one of the best. I mean, they're not cops. Okay, so Gosling's character, Holland March, he's a private eye, and Russell Crowe's character, Jackson Healy, he's a hired heavy, so he just beats up people. It's kind of funny, like their two characters are kind of yin and yang. They're two sides of the same coin. At the beginning of the movie, Ryan Gosling character is very, very cynical about everything. So that's why he's very apathetic. Like he's just drinking all day. Of course, he's lost his wife, but also he's just taking money from elderly women whose husbands have deceased, and they've got they're going senile or got Alzheimer's. So they imagine that their husband's still alive, but he's immoral, amoral. Both characters, very shady, and so, that's ironic title is The Nice Guys. I mean, in the end, they are nice guys. They're very likable. They're likable because of their friendship. Gosling's likable because even though he's a terrible father, he's a kind of a good father in the end. Things kind of work out, even though they don't work out. It's, full of oxymorons, but yeah, both characters kind of shady. It's a shady era. It's the late 70s. I mean, I guess they didn't have to set it around the porno industry, but this is before VHS tapes came in. I mean, if you're interested in this unique time when people used to go to cinemas to watch, it's funny thing is like porno movies in the late 70s, they probably made more money at the cinema than most tentpole movies do nowadays, because the tentpole movies, they're not doing well these days. I mean, a lot of even the superhero movies, a lot of them have lost money in the last few years. But there was this unique time in the late 70s. Apparently, if you're interested, watch Boogie Nights. Boogie Nights very much focused on the porno industry, late 70s, early 80s. So this is just before VHS tapes. This is before people could watch porn at home on tapes. Then you had DVDs. Of course, now the internet, everything's changed. Smartphones, OnlyFans, whole different world now. But people used to go to the cinema, and it was kind of a strange time because the directors of these porno movies and some of the actors and actresses, they weren't satisfied just, being labeled as porn stars or porno movies. They wanted to make real art, and so there was a bit of effort put into the story. I mean, you couldn't have people at a cinema just jerking off. I mean, I guess it did happen, but they had to make movies that would keep people in the cinema seated for an hour and a half or 2 hours. And so the big attraction was the boobies and the whatever. and so there's boobies in The Nice Guys. Maybe a slight criticism that a little bit unnecessary. I mean, of course, I have no problem. I'm happy enough to see boobies, but there's a flash of boobies, early on in the movie. So the first scene in the movie, you have this boy. He's checking out his dad's porno magazine stash underneath the bed, and then this car comes crashing down the hill through the house, and this is Misty Mountains, and she's barely alive, and she says, "How do you like my car, big boy?" which is the title of this movie, and this is kind of connected to the mystery of the movie. It's all kind of obscure, but she happens to be naked, just like she is in the porn magazine. I think that was kind of unnecessary. But what was I saying? I was talking about the era. Okay. Getting way off track there. Yeah, apparently. So I was born in 1978. I don't remember the 70s. I remember the 80s. But I came out I came out, I was born a year after this movie was set. This movie's set in 1977, and yeah, from what I've read, from what I've heard, the late 1970s, especially in Los Angeles, was a very unique time. Okay, I'm just going to read a bit of the blurb on Wikipedia. So, yeah, it says that since the movie's release, it has gained a cult following, especially for Gosling and Crowe's chemistry and the comedy. Yeah, so people are, I'm glad that people are finally giving this movie its dues. But I don't know. I mean, if they don't make a sequel soon, they might run out of time. Especially with Russell Crowe's ever-expanding waistline. I mean, I don't like to fat shame people, but it is strange to me that someone as wealthy as Russell Crowe, like he can afford dietitians, he can afford a private chef, he can afford a personal trainer. It is surprising to me that he's let himself go so much. I don't know. Some people, they just can't keep the weight off, but he's still a good actor, but yeah, it's hard to ignore his massive size. Kind of like Marlon Brando. He's not as fat as Marlon Brando, but it's again ironic because before Russell Crowe was an actor, he was a singer, and he had a song came out. I think this is the late '80s, so before he was even in movies, and one of his songs was "I Want to Be Just Like Marlon Brando." And so it kind of seems like he's morphing into Marlon Brando. So, like the last few years of Marlon Brando's career, kind of a joke. I mean, he was literally like a whale. I don't know. He probably weighed 130 kilograms. Russell Crowe's not that fat, but a movie like The Island of Dr. Moreau. He's just sitting the whole movie. There might be one scene where he walks around. That's become a cult classic. That's also has Val Kilmer in it, and that was filmed in Australia, in Cairns. It's one of those movies that's considered the best of the worst. It's so bad that it's good. Kind of like The Room. I mean, The Room. What's his name? Johnny Wiseau, director, writer, Tommy Wiseau. Tommy Wiseau. So The Room is often called the best, worst movie ever made, and in the same breath, The Island of Dr. Moreau. So if you like those kind of movies that are so bad they're good, check out The Island of Dr. Moreau. But yeah, and that movie partly inspired, it inspired a character, it inspired Mini-Me in the Austin Powers movies. So Mike Myers, he said that the Mini-Me character in The Island of Dr. Moreau. So Marlon Brando, he had this, dwarf guy, little guy from India, I think he's from, and he was apparently really obnoxious on set. So what makes The Island of Dr. Moreau so special is not just the movie's so bad and crazy and bonkers. It's also like, if you know the behind the scenes stuff, like for example, the director got fired and he was hiding in the jungle trying to spy on the set apparently, and then this Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer, they hated each other, and the Mini-Me, the little guy, the dwarf who played the Mini-Me guy in The Island of Dr. Moreau, apparently he was like a sexual fiend. He was groping the women on set, and because Marlon Brando had his back, Marlon Brando was the big guy on set, literally and figuratively, and he was his pet. And similar in the Austin Powers movie, how the Mini-Me can get away with bullying people because, his dad is the big Dr. Evil. Anyway, totally off on my tangents again. Why was I talking about that? Why was I talking about? Oh yeah, I was just saying, Russell Crowe. I hope he gets back his health and loses a bit of weight. Still a good actor, but Ryan Gosling, he's still in his prime. I mean, he's early 40s, and it's interesting that he's leaning more into comedies. So since The Nice Guys, he was in La La Land. That's not a comedy, but some humorous moments. The Grey Man, that was a spy movie on Netflix. Not bad, not good, but he's good in it. I mean, Ryan Gosling is good in every movie. Barbie, very, very funny. He's very funny in Barbie. The Fall Guy, this is another underrated movie that came out last year, inspired by the TV series from the 1980s, but he plays, Colt Seavers. That was filmed in Sydney. I really like The Fall Guy. It's not as good as The Nice Guys, but again, if you like Ryan Gosling, definitely check out The Fall Guy. That movie cost way too much, though. It cost 150 million, made 180 million. So it's another one of these Ryan Gosling movies that's not going to get a sequel. I don't know, like everyone says they like Ryan Gosling, but then they don't go to see him at the cinema. So when he's in a good movie like The Fall Guy or The Nice Guys, they don't get a sequel. His next movie coming out next year is Project Hail Mary. I'm interested in that because it's directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, so that should be a good one. They directed the 21, 22 Jump Street movies. Ryan Gosling, his next movie is Project Hail Mary. I don't think that's a comedy. I think that's kind of a serious movie. It's about spacecraft. He's talking to aliens, so kind of sci-fi movie. And then I'm a little bit disappointed about that. Gosling's going to be in a Star Wars movie. So they're filming it currently. It's called Star Wars Starfighter, and that's coming out 2027, but it's filming now. I just think, why is Gosling going to do that movie? I guess he wants the money. I mean, he's a father now. He's got 2 daughters. His daughters are 10, 11 years old, something like that. So, now Gosling's at the stage in his life a bit similar to his Holland March character in The Nice Guys, where, he's a father, he's looking out for his daughter, but in reality, he's happily married to, what's her name? His actress, Eva Mendes. Eva Mendes, she was in a very funny movie, buddy cop movie, The Other Guys. If you like The Nice Guys, watch The Other Guys also. Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg, and she's very, very funny in that. She hasn't been in many movies recently. I guess she semi-retired, so since she married Ryan Gosling, they're a happy couple. So in reality, Gosling, I guess he is a nice guy, and he's a kind of protective father to his 2 young daughters. And in The Nice Guys, he is like that to his daughter Holly March, played by Angourie Rice. If you like Angourie Rice, she's the third lead. I mean, it's not just a buddy cop movie, it's also the relationship between Ryan Gosling and Angourie Rice, his daughter in The Nice Guys, is kind of like Inspector Gadget. So if you remember the cartoon Inspector Gadget, I think that was, 30 years ago. If you're as old as me, you'll remember that one. And so yeah, again, the movie works as a buddy cop movie. It works as a mystery detective story. It works as a kind of neo-noir 70s throwback. If you like 70s fashion, if you like 70s cars, if you like 70s music, if you're interested in the porn industry in the late 70s, if you like those kind of old gangster movies, all that stuff, The Nice Guys. But also if you like a cartoon like Inspector Gadget. So remember in Inspector Gadget, he's a terrible buffoon detective, kind of like the Pink Panther. He kind of succeeds despite himself. He just lands full. It all comes together in the end. But in Inspector Gadget, the niece, I think it's his niece, so it's not the daughter, the niece character, she's the smart one. And it's a little bit like that in The Nice Guys. So, Holland, March, and Jackson Healy, Crowe and Gosling, they're not completely incompetent, but there's so many crazy scenes. The dialogue, I'll go on. This video is already way too long, and if you want to know about the dialogue, I guess you watch reaction videos. This is a review, it's not a reaction video, but there's so many amazing sequences of dialogue. For example, when they go to this hotel, it's this hotel near the airport, so they're following, trying to figure out, this is towards the end of the movie, and they go to a bar, and they're talking about, the barman says to him, oh, you don't want to go up there, these guys have got bodyguards, the kind that with no balls, and he goes, what do you call that? And so I guess that they're searching for the word eunuch, and but Russell Crowe's Jackson Healy character amusingly says it calls married. It's called married, isn't it? Because married guys, of course, they're cuckolds, they're castrated by their wives, and then when they get in the lift, there's banter about should they go up the lift or shouldn't they, and it's the smart thing, but in the end they decide to go up the lift to try and save Margaret Qualley's character, Amelia. But then as they're going up the lift, they see these guys falling off the building, being shot, and as soon as the lift doors open, they see shots fired. They get back in the lift. But anyway, while they're going up in the lift, Gosling, he says, oh, it's called Munich. And then Crowe is saying to him, Munich? Munich? That's a city in Germany. You're thinking of eunuch. So it's like a callback to this amusing conversation that they had in the bar, minutes earlier. And then, but to kind of save face, Gosling's character says, oh, Hitler only had one ball. And so there's all these running gags. There's running gags about Hitler. There's running gags about the birds and the bees. There's a bee character that literally turns up at one stage, and that's Hannibal Buress. He has a cameo voice. He's playing Bumble the bee when Gosling's character is kind of drunk in the car and he's falling asleep, and so he has this vision of a bee talking to him. And as I mentioned before, you have Robert Downey Jr. So many great cameos and small. Kim Basinger's in the movie. She starred alongside Russell Crowe in LA Confidential, so there's that callback to LA Confidential with the reteaming of Basinger and Russell Crowe. And then you have Gil Gerard. He has a bit character. He plays Bergen Paulson. Gil Gerard, he was in, what was his big movie? He was in Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, 1979, 1981. That was, I remember as a kid watching that. And you have Keith David, amazing actor, and long career. He plays the older guy hitman. So you have these competing hitmen or thugs that are trying to catch Amelia, played by Margaret Qualley. Keith David, it's only a small role, but he's in a few scenes. There's some, good dialogue, funny dialogue between him and Russell Crowe. And Keith David, so he's in my favorite comedy of the last 10 years, The Nice Guys. He's also in my favorite comedy of all time, There's Something About Mary. He plays Cameron Diaz's stepfather. So there's a very funny scene. The funniest scene in There's Something About Mary, in my opinion, is the scene where Ben Stiller gets his junk stuck in the zipper, the Frank and the Beans thing. So he goes to pick up, Mary, Cameron Diaz, incredibly beautiful, so beautiful in that movie, and so funny too. And he goes to her house, but then he's shocked because the father's black, because Keith David's black, Cameron Diaz not black, and then finds out it's the stepfather. And then, of course, she has a what's the politically correct word? Actually, the first time I ever heard the word politically correct was in There's Something About Mary. Nowadays we say, virtue signaling or woke, yeah, that's the new term. But 1997, when There's Something About Mary came out, so I love that movie. I'll talk about that some other time. But, the best scene for me is when Ben Stiller gets his junk stuck in the zipper, and it's such an embarrassing, cringe scene where he's in the toilet and the fireman comes in and Keith David comes in and he's kind of mocking him, and then he tells his wife, who's a dental hygienist, you got to check this out, and she'll know what to do. Like a dental hygienist will know what to do with a guy and his dick stuck in his zipper. And then you got the whole neighborhood knows about this embarrassing thing. And my second favorite scene from that is Matt Dillon. He's trying to impress Cameron Diaz at the golf driving range, and he says that he works with retards, and she says, "Isn't that a bit politically incorrect?" And he totally misses her point, because he says, to hell with that. Who's going to tell me who I can and can't work with? We got these mongoloids stuck in cages, and so anyway, one of my tangents. But Keith David, he's in two of the best comedies ever, but unfortunately minor characters. Great scene in Something About Mary, and some great scenes in this. If you like Angourie Rice, she's been in the Spider-Man movies. I'm not a big fan of the Spider-Man movies. They're okay, but I'm just not a big fan of superhero movies in general. I guess if you'd say what are my favorite superhero movies, probably Batman. I mean the original Batman, and the Dark Knight trilogy. Of course, that was great. But Angourie Rice, if you like Australian movies, she's from Australia, and there's a small movie that came out. A small movie, low budget movie came out in 2018 called Ladies in Black, and it's set in 1950s Sydney, and it's filmed very beautifully. It's set kind of in a department store. If you like period pieces, if you like that actress, if you're interested in Australia, directed by Bruce Beresford. He's a famous Australian director. He directed Driving Miss Daisy. That was Morgan Freeman's breakout movie. Maybe Shawshank Redemption and Seven, but I think the first movie where people really took notice of Morgan Freeman was Driving Miss Daisy. So check that movie out, Ladies in Black. I think it's free on YouTube. I live in Japan, so of course it depends what country you live in, what movies you can see on YouTube for free, but I did find it here. So in Japan you can watch Ladies in Black, 2018 Australian comedy drama, and that stars Angourie Rice. So she's great in The Nice Guys. This movie was also a breakout movie for her. I guess I better wrap it up, but The Nice Guys is incredible. It's the kind of movie you need to watch 2 or 3 times to fully appreciate. I think I did watch a couple of those reaction videos, and so it's interesting to me that all these, reaction videos on The Nice Guys have come out in the last 2 or 3 years. Maybe not surprising, because there has been a general boom in reaction videos, both for music videos and movies, but it seems like it's really become a cult hit in the last 2 or 3 years, and partly thanks to all these YouTubers talking about it. Maybe I can be a part of that. I don't know how many people are going to watch this review, but if you watched my review and you've never seen this movie, then I'll be glad that I introduced it to you. I imagine most people who would listen to this review have already seen the movie, but if you haven't, check it out. It's amazing. And what I was saying is that these reaction videos, they're all saying that they're shocked how good the movie is. Like, this is my favorite comedy of all time. Maybe they exaggerate. I'm sure, these reaction video YouTubers, they probably do tend to exaggerate things for likes, and I can promise you I'm not exaggerating. I love this movie, and it if you haven't seen it, women love Ryan Gosling. Some women love Russell Crowe too, and he was a heartthrob in his Gladiator days and in his LA Confidential days, but his heartthrob days are surely well behind him. He's in his 60s now, and again, he said he wanted to be Marlon Brando. He's beginning to look like Marlon Brando towards the end of his career. Unfortunately, get well soon, Russell Crowe. Lose the weight, get a personal trainer, whatever. It's. I'm not the only person who's mentioned Russell Crowe's weight. It is kind of crazy that he's become a fat bastard, but as he's put on weight, he's become a nicer guy. I've noticed this because, at the peak of Russell Crowe's career, he did get a bit big for his bridges, so he won the Academy Award in 2000 for Gladiator. The next year, he was nominated again for A Beautiful Mind, great movie, incredible, Ron Howard movie. And at the British Academy Awards, he apparently punched someone backstage because they cut his speech. He likes to talk too much, like me, blabbering on, and they kind of played him off stage and cut his speech short. And I think that cost him the Academy Award. And that year, the Academy Award went to Denzel Washington for Training Day, and everyone expected Russell Crowe was going to win it for A Beautiful Mind. And then a couple of years after that, he threw a phone at a hotel clerk because, he couldn't get his wife on the line or something. And South Park, they went to town on Russell Crowe. So 20 years ago, at the peak of Crowe's career, he really had this aggro streak in him, which plays to his character in The Nice Guys. He's a guy who can't control his temper. But now he's mellower, he's fatter, and he has become a nice guy. So kind of ironic. I think Ryan Gosling has always been a nice guy, and I'll even watch that Star Wars movie because he's in it. But I'm kind of disappointed that The Nice Guys didn't make money because there's probably not going to be a sequel. And even The Fall Guy, that was a fun action comedy romance movie. Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt, came out last year. That movie, maybe it barely broke even, but for some reason everybody loves Ryan Gosling, and yet his movies invariably lose money at the cinema. I wish that Netflix would do what they did with the Knives Out movies. So the Knives Out movies, the first one was mildly successful at the box office. Netflix bought it. They paid Ryan Johnson, the director and writer, they paid him $50 million, and they paid Daniel Craig. I think Daniel Craig is better in the Knives Out movies than he is in James Bond. He was great in Casino Royale, but the last No Time to Die came out 2 years ago, and apparently Daniel Craig, he wanted James Bond to die, so he got his wish. And I think that's kind of selfish because Daniel Craig didn't own James Bond. James Bond, it was written by Ian Fleming, but it started in the 60s, Dr. No with Sean Connery, Roger Moore, who are the other people to play James Bond? Pierce Brosnan, there's Timothy Dalton, and who was the Aussie guy? The name escapes me, but anyway, kind of selfish for Daniel Craig to request the Broccolis. Recently James Bond has been sold to Amazon, so I believe the Broccolis are out. So who knows what direction the James Bond movies are going? Who knows what direction my next words are going to go on, because I'm all over the place. But if you like Daniel Craig, the Knives Out movies are great. It's crazy to me that Netflix paid the director of Knives Out $50 million and Daniel Craig $50 million to be in the Knives Out movies on Netflix. So the Glass Onion came out a couple of years ago, and there's another one coming out soon. If they've got money to burn on a movie like that, why not just pay Shane Black, Russell Crowe, Ryan Gosling to come back for a streaming movie? If people aren't going to watch Gosling at the cinema, then they'll surely watch him on Netflix. And this movie, everyone's saying it's a cult classic now. So it's finally found its audience. 9 years too late, maybe not too late if Amazon or Netflix buy the rights to the movie and just stream it, because Apple TV, they've got money to burn. I mean, example of that is The Morning Show that came out with Reese Witherspoon and who's the one, Rachel from Friends. Okay, name escapes me, but whatever. The Morning Show, the first year it was quite popular. Now they're on season 4. I think nobody's watched The Morning Show for the last few years. And that show, I think it costs like close to 100 million per season to make. So if Apple TV is willing to spend 100 million on this show that nobody watches, and Netflix is going to spend 100 million to get Ryan Johnson and Daniel Craig, and they spent like 300 million on Red Notice for Dwayne Johnson and Ryan Reynolds, a movie that nobody liked. Why can't they spend 100 million to get the director, writer, and star actors? Shane Black wants to do it. He's the writer. He's the director. Crowe wants to do it, and Gosling wants to do it. And time is running out, especially for Russell Crowe, because the way he's going, his stomach might explode in the next few years. Okay, too much fat shaming, but no, seriously, weight aside, it's generally not good if they wait too long to do a sequel. The one exception to that is probably Top Gun Maverick. So somehow Tom Cruise made Top Gun in 1986, and then the sequel came out, 27 years later, and the sequel was actually better. But that is really the exception that proves the rule. When they wait too long to do a sequel, it generally doesn't go well. And if they did a sequel to The Nice Guys now, it would be perfect for the 80s. And Shane Black, he mentioned that. He said he'd love to do a movie set in the 80s. The 80s has a whole other aesthetic. You could have the Miami Vice vibe, Don Johnson with the white jackets and the mullet haircuts. Yeah, that would be great. So The Nice Guys set in 1977 Los Angeles. Most of it was actually filmed in Atlanta. A lot of the houses, the buildings filmed in Los Angeles, but the indoor shots all filmed in Atlanta apparently. And the hotel where the car show is at the end of the movie, that was Atlanta. I think it was Hilton in Atlanta, built in 1976, and it hasn't changed. So that was perfect for the period piece. But here's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see 10 years later, 1987, Nice Guys 2. I think Russell Crowe said they should call it The Mexicans or something, because at the end of The Nice Guys, I mean, I'm not talking about the story, but there's at the end of The Nice Guys, Russell Crowe is drinking again, so he's tried to stay sober, but he becomes the alcoholic at the end of the movie, and finally Gosling is sober because he's got his mojo back, he's got his confidence back, they've solved the crime, he finally feels good that he's a good detective, and he finally feels good as a father because his daughter respects him, even though the daughter half solved the crime. I mean, they work together. It's the three of them. It's the Inspector Gadget duo of Gosling and his daughter, Angourie Rice, plus it's the buddy cop duo of Crowe and Gosling. So it's really the three of them together, but the movie works on so many levels. It's a masterpiece. I mean, some people might, it's kind of like comedies never win Academy Awards. There's no award for best comedy. There is at the Golden Globes, but famously, some of the best movies ever made are comedies. I mean, Airplane, the Naked Gun movie, There's Something About Mary, The Jerk, Steve Martin. Another favorite Steve Martin movie, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, Steve Martin and Michael Caine, incredible movie. Planes, Trains and Automobiles, amazing movie. So many great comedies. Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson in Zoolander. Meet the Parents. Yeah. So many of these comedies never ever got a nomination. Never nominated for anything. Somehow Tarantino has gotten around that because his movies are sort of comedies. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is sort of a comedy, but it's also like a thriller, action drama, rewriting history. So somehow Tarantino, he manages, I mean, he's gotten Academy Awards for writing, Best Original Screenplay. He's been nominated for Best Director. Brad Pitt won Best Supporting Actor. So Tarantino very savvy that he has his cake and eat it too. His movies make big money, and he manages to make comedies that are officially not comedies, and he gets nominated for awards. The Academy loves him. But unfortunately, movies like The Nice Guys, they don't win any awards, they don't make money, and they go under the radar until people discover them years later on YouTube through reaction videos, or maybe through my movie review if you haven't seen it. So thanks for watching. I would love to see a 1987 set, so 10 years later, The Nice Guys. Crowe said it should be called The Mexicans because the final shot of the movie is Gosling giving him a business card, like their detective agency, and then so it's called they say The Nice Guys, but then you have the beard, mustache kind of thing on Crowe's face, and he says, I look like a Mexican. So I think that was Crowe's idea to call it The Mexicans, but anyway, don't quote me on that. Who cares if it's called The Mexicans or The Cubans or The Nice Guys too, The Nicer Guys. The title doesn't really matter, but I'd like to see it set in Miami because, Miami Vice was late 80s, and, the fashion, the decor of the house and the buildings, the hotels, that's very much the music, very much a vibe in The Nice Guys, and a lot of people, they praise it, even if the detective story gets them a bit confused. If you like whodunits, you'll love this movie. So come on Netflix, come on Amazon, come on Apple TV, buy this movie. $100 million, you can do it. And yeah, I wish Ryan Gosling would make more movies like this instead of doing the Star Wars movie. But Fall Guy, also great, so maybe I'll review that sometime soon. And Russell Crowe, bravo, you proved you can be funny, and he is a nice guy now, apparently, or nicer than he used to be. So he's fighting around the world. South Park days are over. He's not throwing phones at hotel clerks anymore. If you see him in interviews, he's much more easygoing. So, okie dokies, I've definitely blabbered on enough. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. Have a good one. Ciao for now.
Go.
What?
Go, it's recording.
Hello, you've reached the Nice Guys Detective Agency.
Do you believe your daughter's new boyfriend is up to no good?
Has your loved one gone missing?
If so, then the Nice Guys Detective Agency is here to help.
We cover adultery, missing persons, small crimes, and occasionally murder.
Leave us a massage after the tone.
Message.
All right. Your handwriting is terrible.
You ever see the bad breath, Ty? Breathe on it. It works every time.
When the devils conspire in the city of angels, who can its citizens depend on? The Nice Guys. The indomitable Jackson Healy.
I'm Jackson Healy.
Brooding, bruising, and newly quit boozing. He's a one-man wrecking machine with a heart of gold. The unscrupulous Holland March.
The name's Holland March.
Drunken, sunken, his life has gone kerplunken. The father of one and friend to none, with blood as boozy as a railroad hobo.
Your money.
Help me! Banded together to protect the innocent and the repressed, or at least the paying customers from the forces of evil. The Nice Guys. Dedicated to truth, justice, and a bustling small business. Their mission, to fight injustice, to right that which is wrong, and to always have a pocket full of cash. The Nice Guys.
My mother is a criminal. She's one of them.
What is them? What's them?
One of the insiders. One of the capitalist corporate suppressors. They just want us dead. We're in their crosshairs, man. We're just pawns.
So let me get this straight. You made a porno film where the point was the plot.
Sure, hang up, man.
I like her. I like your dress.
You're never wearing a dress like that. Sorry. This is coming from a guy whose girlfriend mates with like 80,000 other guys.
That's kind of slutty.
You just don't understand her. She's pretty hot.
Yeah, and you're also kind of trying to make, that's what you're doing. You get the handcuffs, Jessica told, and we're gonna get out the door together.
You're Holly. Dr. Malik.
Hi.
Hi.
She's inside. Come in.
Thank you so much. How's our patient? That's her?
No, that's Jessica. What she's got, you can't fix.
Excuse me.
Evening.
Did you hear that sound just a second ago?
I threw that little girl out the window. I threw that little girl out the window. Here goes the trick.
There's stuff going on. Recognize her fast. Is he doing it?
It turns into this rocket thing.
Bebop. What do you think of that? Funny? You can do this. 3, 2, 1.
March! Go! Did you fall? Did you fall down here? Jesus Christ! From the roof?
Yeah.
Action!